Hi folks, it's Pastor Russ. How's everybody doing today? Beautiful day today. I hope everybody's enjoying the weather. We're certainly due for some nice weather after what we've been through. So hopefully you can get some fresh air today and some sunshine. I know we're still locked down, but hey, can't stop you from going in your backyard or in your front porch or side porch or what have you. So enjoy the day. I just wanted to mention to you we have just one new prayer request from what we have been sharing here, and it's one that we were praying about before, so I want to bring it back to our attention, just some new wrinkles. Bob's mother needs continued prayers for some of her health issues, so please keep her in your prayers as well. Just keep working on the prayer list and all the names we've been adding. If you need to go back through some of the past videos to pick up some of those names, usually I mention the prayer requests at the beginning of the videos, whether it be the sermons or the devotionals. So, and we're still not sure of any kind of timetable yet. There's still a political wrangling going on with our county between the elected officials and the governor, who has his color-coded plan that he's intent on sticking with. So we'll see what happens with that. I don't know at this point. I mean, he's saying June 4th is be the earliest that he would change our status, so who knows. But again, we'll keep you informed on what's happening with that. Just hang in there. I know this has dragged out now a long time, and we are seeing improvement. Of course, there are still people contracting the disease. There are still people who are dying from it, but we want to just keep praying for them, for health, and that the warmer weather brings a relief from this as well. So hopefully that will happen. Hopefully we can get back to normal as soon as possible. I know I keep telling you that every time we have one of these recorded messages, but that's all I can tell you, because I don't know anymore as far as that goes. So as soon as we can get back together again, we will, and we'll pray that the Lord brings that about in His time. Let's spend some time in the Word today. I would like to read to you from Luke chapter 18, verses 9 through 14. And he told this parable to some people who trusted in themselves that they were righteous and viewed others with contempt. 2 men went up into the temple to pray, one a Pharisee and the other a tax collector. The Pharisee stood and was praying this to himself: God, I thank you that I am not like other people, swindlers, unjust adulterers, or even like this tax collector. I fast twice a week. I pay tithes of all I get. But the tax collector, standing some distance away, was even unwilling to lift his eyes to heaven, but was beating his breast, saying, God, be merciful to me, the sinner. I tell you, this man went to his house justified rather than the other. For everyone who exalts himself will be humbled, but he who humbles himself will be exalted. This is Jesus' parable of the Pharisee and the tax collector. He's trying to illustrate a point here. Now, we know that Jesus was dealing with the religious structure of Israel in his day, and that was a highly developed Judaism. There were the temple sacrifices and all of that went on. Beyond that, there was the synagogue movement, where the emphasis was on reading the Word and living according to the law. There were various religious sects of Judaism. The Sadducees generally ran the temple sacrifices. The Pharisees were more involved in the rules and the law and so on. So Jesus was in the mix of that. It wasn't a case where everybody just said, hey, let's come to hear what he has to say. No, there was a well-established Judaism in his day. And so he clashed with that from time to time because of the hypocrisy that he saw, and the lies and the distortions of God's Word that he saw, that were keeping people really away from God rather than drawing them to Him. So he wanted people to understand that, and so he uses an example that wasn't strange or foreign to people, but one that they could understand and identify. Now, going to the temple to pray was a common practice for good Jews. If you were in Jerusalem, there were times of prayer throughout the day. In addition to the sacrifices, there were times of worship and so on, incense burning and prayers. So people going there was a common practice. Now you had to be a Jew to go into the temple area, to the court of Israel. Other than that, you could stay on the outskirts, the court of the Gentiles. But that's not who we're talking about here. I think we're talking about people who were both Jews. The Pharisee, of course, was a religious expert. He was very zealous in his faith, but he was also very arrogant and condescending to other people because he wallowed in or gloried in his own self-righteousness. He focused on his religious activities. Oh, I tithe from everything I get. I fast twice a day. I'm not a real sinner like this other guy. And if we look at Jewish custom too, typically when good Jews were praying, they were standing on their feet with their arms outraised. So we get this picture of him kind of standing, fully extended in the temple, raising his hands to heaven while he's praying loudly enough that everybody can hear him. Kind of patting himself on the back. It seems silly, but that's the picture Jesus wanted to create here. Now, on the other hand, the other man who comes is a tax collector. Tax collectors, as I've taught before many times in our church, were Jewish people hired by the Romans to collect Roman taxes from Jews. So they weren't for a percentage. They would get a percentage. And many times they charge an extra percentage, so they were corrupt. They were not well liked by their fellow Jews by any means, but they were tolerated because this is what Rome did. Rome didn't want to waste its own personnel to collect Jewish taxes, so they hired those who were willing to do it for them from the native populations. Matthew was one such person, and we could go on with others too to discuss this, but we won't for this sake of this discussion. So here was a Jewish person who was not religious, really, not well liked, considered more the scum of the society because he sided with the Romans and against the notion that Israel should be its own master of its own destiny. And he was possibly corrupt and cheating his own countrymen. But this man obviously is aware of his shortcomings and is coming to God not for a pat on the back, but crying out for mercy. It says he was not even willing to lift his eyes towards heaven, so he was standing there with a bowed head perhaps, or I don't know, it doesn't say he's on his knees, but he was not in any way in the same position or attitude as the Pharisee was. And he was at the very back of the area. He didn't even feel he could come closer to God than he was, or to the other people. He understood that he was looked down upon. And all he had was a simple prayer saying, "Lord, have mercy on me, the sinner." Jesus pointed out rightly that it is those who humble themselves, who accept their own faults and failings and sins, and come to God asking for his help, who are justified by God. Not the ones who come to God looking for a pat on the back saying, "Look at me, aren't I wonderful?" Because, as Jesus pointed out many times, those people who are self-righteous are delusional because they're truly sinners just as much as the others are in God's eyes. They just don't think they are. And so they never ask for forgiveness, so their sins don't get forgiven. And the lesson in that for us is we must always have an attitude of humility when we approach God. He welcomes us to come. We're welcome to be there as his children. But if we ever start getting the attitude that we deserve this, or that he is somehow obligated to us, then we've gone off track. We must always come with a humble spirit, a humble heart, always knowing that, there's some way that we surely have sinned and we need his forgiveness and his grace. And we can come and ask him for things, for prayer requests. And if we come with a humble heart, then he will hear and he will act for our best. He doesn't always give us what we want, but he does act for our best. So this parable is a very powerful one for anybody who is trusting in themselves rather than in the Lord. Also for those who think, I'm just not good enough for God. I can't be like the church-going people, to show that yes, you're indeed welcome. As long as you humble yourself before him and ask for forgiveness, he's more than happy to forgive. He's more than happy to care. And that's an important lesson for us always to keep in mind as Christians. It's also an important lesson for us to share with those around us who may not know the Lord, that he's willing to accept them if they're willing to surrender to him. So let's keep that in mind in our dealings with other people, as well as how we project our faith to others. We don't want people to think that we are self-righteous and trusting in our own natural goodness, rather than just sinners saved by grace like everybody else is. So thank you for watching today. I will be back in touch with you, of course, later in the week with another devotional. Again, if there are any needs, please feel free, let me know. My phone numbers, text my cell phone, send to my email, contact one of the deacons or somebody else in the church, and they'll be in touch with me. I do check the church answering machine when I go there, when I'm doing the Sunday sermon message there, but that's not the best way to get in touch with me if it's something important or critical, because it might be several days till I would get the message. So just to give you that tip. At any rate, we're glad that you're still hanging in there, and thank you for watching today, and may the Lord bless you for the rest of this coming week.